Exodus chapter 21. Slaves. These are the norms you are to set before them. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he will serve you for 6 years, and in the 7th year he shall go free without you having to pay him anything. If he came alone, he will live alone. If he was married, his wife will live with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and the children belong to his master. He will live alone. But if the slave says, I love my wife, my master, and my children, I do not want to be freed, his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also take him to the door or the doorpost. Then his master will pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him for life. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she is not to go free as men slaves do. If she does not please the master who intended her for himself, he shall let another redeem her. He is not to sell her to foreigners because he has broken faith with her. If he intends her for his son, he will deal with her according to the rights of daughters. If he takes another wife for himself, he will not diminish the food, clothing, or marital rights for the first one. If he fails her in respect of these 3 rights, she is to go free without any payment of money. Violence. The man who strikes another and so causes his death shall be put to death. If he did not want to kill him, but as it were, God lets it happen, then I will give you a place where he may find refuge. Instead, if a man willfully attacks another to kill him treacherously, you will take him away even from my altar and put him to death. Whoever strikes his father or mother shall be put to death. Anyone who kidnaps another and either sells him or is found holding him captive shall be put to death. He who curses his father or mother shall be put to death. When 2 people quarrel and one strikes another with a stone or with his fist so that he does not die but is confined to bed, and after that he gets up and walks about with the help of a stick, the one who struck the blow will not be held as a criminal. He will, however, pay the injured for loss of time and see that he is completely healed. When someone strikes his slave, male or female, with a rod and the slave dies at his hands, he shall be punished. But if the slave survives for a day or 2, he will not be penalized, since the slave is his property. If people are fighting and a pregnant woman is hit so that there is a miscarriage, but she is not injured, the one who hurt her will pay the fine demanded by her husband and sanctioned by the court. But if there is serious injury, you are to take life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stroke for stroke. When a man strikes the eye of his slave, male or female, and the eye is lost, he will let the slave go free in compensation for the eye. If he knocks out a tooth, he will likewise give the slave his freedom in compensation for his tooth. When an ox gores a man or woman to death, the ox will be stoned and its flesh will not be eaten, but the owner of the ox will not be punished. If the ox had gored someone in the past and its owner had been warned but had not kept it fenced, and if later it kills a man or a woman, the ox will be stoned, and its owner also must be put to death. If the owner, however, is allowed to pay a fine to save his life, he must pay all that is demanded. If the ox gores a boy or a girl, the same norm applies. If the ox gores a man or a woman slave, the owner of the slave shall be paid 30 shekels of silver, and the ox will be stoned. When a man leaves a pit uncovered, or when he digs a pit and leaves it open, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit will make compensation to the owner of the animal by paying him money, but he may keep the dead animal. When a man's ox injures the ox of his neighbor and it dies, they will sell the live ox and share both the money and the meat of the dead animal equally. Or if it is known that the ox has been in the habit of goring and its owner has not kept it fenced in, he must make good the loss by giving his neighbor a live ox, but the dead ox will be his. Restitution. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and either slaughters or sells it, he must pay 5 oxen for the ox, 4 sheep for the sheep. Exodus chapter 22. If a thief is caught breaking into a house and receive a mortal blow, the man who struck him will not be guilty of murder, but if it happened after dawn, he will be guilty. The thief must make full restitution. If he cannot do this, he must be sold for what he has stolen. If what has been stolen is found alive in his possession, be it ox, donkey, or sheep, he must pay double. If someone puts his animal to graze and lets them stray and feed in another man's field or vineyard, he must make good the loss with the best of his own crop or the best of his vineyard. When a fire breaks out and spreads through the thorn bushes and burns the grain that is either stacked or growing there or the field itself, the one who started the fire must pay for the damage. If someone gives money or goods to another to keep for him and they are stolen, the thief, if he is found, shall pay back double. Should the thief not be found, the man who owns the house must swear before the judges that he has not stolen the other man's property. Whenever there is a failure of trust, whether it concerns an ox, a donkey, sheep, clothing, or any other lost object, the case shall come before the judges. The person whom the judges find guilty shall pay the double to the other. If someone entrusts to his neighbor his donkey, ox, sheep, and other animals for safekeeping, and the animal dies or is injured or is carried off without being seen by anyone, an oath before the Lord shall prove that the man has not stolen the other's property. The owner of the animal shall accept the oath and the other shall not make restitution. But if he is really guilty of theft, restitution shall be made to the owner. If the animal was killed by wild beasts, the man must bring the remains as evidence, but shall not pay anything. When someone borrows an animal from his neighbor and the animal is injured or dies, the owner not being present, the man who borrowed must pay for it. But if the owner was present, the borrower need not repay. If it was hired, the price of the hire must be paid back. Social behavior. If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall pay the bride price and marry her. If a father refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the bride price for a virgin given in marriage. You shall not allow a sorceress to live. Whoever has sexual relations with a beast shall be put to death. Whoever sacrifices to any god other than the Lord shall be put to death under the curse of destruction. You shall not wrong or oppress a resident alien, for you were resident aliens in the land of Egypt. You shall not harm the widow or the orphan. If you do harm them and they cry out to me, I will definitely hear them, and my anger will blaze, and I will kill you with the sword, and your own wives will become widows and your children orphans. If you lend money to any of my people who are poor, you shall not act like a money lender, and you shall not charge him interest. If ever you take a person's cloak as a pledge, you must give it back to him by sunset, for it is all the covering he has for his body. In what else will he sleep? And when he cries to me, I will hear him, for I am full of pity. You shall not revile God or curse a ruler of your people. You shall not delay in giving me my share of your wheat and your wine. You shall give to me the firstborn of your sons. It shall be the same for your cattle and sheep. The firstborn shall stay with its mother for 7 days. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. You shall be people consecrated to me. You shall not eat flesh that has been torn by wild animals. Let it be thrown to the dogs. Psalm chapter 32. Confession of sin. Blessed be the one whose sin is forgiven, whose iniquity is wiped away. Blessed is he to whom the Lord imputes no guilt, and in whose spirit is found no deceit. As long as I kept my sin secret, my bones kept wasting away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand lay heavy upon me, my strength was drained as in the heat of summer. Then I made known to you my sin and did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my faults to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. So let the faithful ones pray to you in time of distress. Even if mighty waters overflow, they will not reach him. You are my refuge. You protect me from distress and surround me with songs of salvation. I will teach you, I will show you the way to follow. I will watch over you and give you counsel. Do not be like the horse or the mule, they have no understanding, and you must use bridle and bit to make them come near you. Countless troubles are awaiting the wicked, but the Lord's mercy enfolds those who trust in him. Rejoice in the Lord and be glad, you upright. Shout for joy, all you who are clean of heart. Matthew chapter 21, verse 1 to 22. Jesus enters Jerusalem. When they drew near Jerusalem and arrived at Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 of his disciples, saying, Go to the village in front of you, and as soon as you enter you will find a donkey tied up with its colt by her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says something to you, say, The Lord needs them, and he will send them back immediately. This happened to fulfill what the prophet had said, Say to the daughter of Zion, See, your king comes to you in all simplicity, riding on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a beast of burden. The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them, and they brought a donkey with its colt. Then they threw their cloaks on its back, and Jesus mounted. Many people also spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut leafy branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The people who walked ahead of Jesus and those who followed him began to shout, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna, praise to him in the highest heaven. When Jesus entered Jerusalem, all the city was disturbed. The people asked, Who is this man? And the crowd answered, This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth in Galilee. Jesus in the temple. So Jesus went into the temple and drove out all who were buying and selling in the temple area. He overturned the tables of money changers and the stools of those who sold pigeons, and he said to them, It is written, My house will be called a house of prayer, but you have turned it into a den of thieves. The blind and the lame also came to him in the temple, and he healed them. The chief priests and the teachers of the law saw the wonderful things Jesus had just done, and the children shouting in the temple area, Hosanna to the Son of David. They became indignant and said to Jesus, Do you hear what they say? Jesus answered them, Yes, have you never read these texts? From the mouths of children and infants you have ordained for yourself perfect praise. So leaving them, he went out of the city and came to Bethany, where he spent the night. Jesus curses the fig tree. While returning to the city early in the morning, Jesus felt hungry. He noticed a fig tree by the road, went up to it, and found nothing on it but leaves. Then he said to the tree, "May you never bear fruit again." And immediately the fig tree withered. When the disciples saw this, they were astonished, and they said, "How did the fig tree suddenly dry up?" Jesus told them, "Truly I say to you, if you had faith and did not doubt, not only could you do what I have done with the fig tree, but you could even say to that mountain, 'Go and throw yourself into the sea,' and it would be done. Whatever you ask for in prayer, you will receive if you believe."